Real briefly, over the last couple of years, City Council, as you all know, has a certain structure with respect to its committee assignments and things of that nature. But frequently, we have issues that are so important that we have to alter that structure, and we have to put in place these special committees when we want to be laser focused on a particular issue. Heretofore, we did a special committee on regulatory reform for businesses to help job creation. We did a special committee on criminal justice reform led by my good friend and colleague, Councilman Jones, and they work well. So now today, we are here to talk about the special committee on gun violence. And I must apologize because we should have done this a long time ago, because the level of gun violence in our city is totally unacceptable, as you all agree. It is not appropriate for us to, as a city, to feel comfortable that we were able to not exceed last year's numbers when last year's numbers were like 300. That's not acceptable. And we have gotten to a point where it was not necessarily okay, but we just kind of said, well, as long as we keep it under. You know, from our perspective, gun violence should be zero. We know that's not practical in a large city, but that should be the target. That should be the goal, all right? So today, it is my pleasure, as a result of a City Council resolution and passage and authorization, to announce the members of the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention. I will call the names of those members. They will come up and speak, so I'm just going to call you all off and you come up. And I want to thank the members, and Councilman Johnson will talk about the various subcommittees so much for their public service. This is a critical issue. We have to be on this in a real sense and ultimately achieve a real goal, which is zero violence, zero gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. So real quick, first I want to thank you all for being here. In this particular order, we will be asking my good friend Councilman Kenyatta Johnson to come up as the chair of the Special Committee on Gun Violence, the co-chair, followed by Managing Director Michael DiBerardinis. The third co-chair will be a good friend from way back in the day, who I hadn't seen in quite a while, and I'm glad to see him be a participant. Co-chair Darrell, retired ATF agent. He was involved in this issue way back before we were talking about it at the level, and also a former president of, and maybe still, Noble National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. And after that, we will have Councilman Curtis Jones, and we will have the community representative, which will be and our good friend and our true soldier out in the vineyards, Dorothy Spike. So I will now introduce to you Councilman Kenyatta Johnson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank our Council President, Darrell Clarke, for his leadership in answering the call of addressing the issue of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. So let's give him a round of applause, please. I want to take a moment and acknowledge the fine officers of the 17th Police District, starting off with the new captain who has hit the ground running. We have been out and about in the community on several different occasions as relates to the issue of gun violence, particularly here in the Point Breeze area. So I want to acknowledge Captain McDonald. Let's give him a round of applause, please. I want to thank him and his whole staff for their day-to-day work. They had a PDAC meeting here yesterday, working in partnership with Town Watch, making sure that in this part of Point Breeze and also Grays Ferry, that we continue to improve the quality of life of our neighborhood by making sure that public safety is first and foremost on this list. I'm honored that the Council President has allowed me to serve as chair on a very issue that's dear and important to me. It was only fitting that we would pick this particular location of Point Breeze, where I've grown up at all my life. I live one block over on Ellsworth Street, to make sure that we continue to move the city of Philadelphia forward, making sure that gun violence is the #1 priority. I'm not shy about talking about how there's an opioid crisis here in the city of Philadelphia, and we have a task force. We have bike lane, Vision Zero, making sure that people can come outside and enjoy themselves on a weekend with safe streets, and that's okay, but we have to make sure that this issue of gun violence is the #1 priority. From now until we significantly, if not eliminate, or reduce the issue of gun violence. And so I want to applaud the mayor's office for at least stepping up to the plate and establishing the Office of Violence Prevention. But this special committee on gun violence that has been established by the members of the City Council is to make sure there's a check and balance system, working also in partnership with the managing director, who you will hear next, Michael DiBerardinis, and making sure that we not only have a comprehensive strategy and plan to address the issue of youth violence, but also making sure that there's an action follow-up plan through recommendations to move this city forward, particularly addressing this issue. When I look out into this crowd, I see children from the Young Chancellors Program that go back and forth from school, back and forth to camp in this neighborhood, and they should not have to go to and from the playground with fear of being shot and or murdered. And so I'm honored to have this opportunity to step up and take the helm and make sure that we come up with a comprehensive plan and strategy and recommendations for the administration to move this needle forward as we talk about the issue of youth gun violence. We have several different committees that will establish the gun violence, the Special Gun Violence Committee. One will be illegal guns, specifically focusing on where the guns are coming from. I always tell people, there's no Uzis made in Point Breeze or Strawberry Mansion, Council President. Them guns come from somewhere, and so for me, it's a poor excuse to say we can't find where the guns are coming from. We got Sheriff Goodman here from, where's Sheriff at? Sheriff Goodman here from Ceasefire, who's going to talk at the end about a report that she has to specifically talk about the issue of lost and stolen guns. If somebody hits you with a car, right, somebody borrow your car and run somebody else over, the cops coming to your home, not the person that was driving. Well, that should be the same thing if you're carrying a gun. If you're carrying a gun or you purchase a gun and somebody gets shot or murdered, you should be held responsible. The other committee we have is public health. Listen, you talk about the opioid crisis, the health epidemic. I'm quite sure Ms. Dorothy Spike Johnson will always tell you, and she's always told myself and Council President Clarke, it's a health epidemic. We need to find out from a health standpoint, why are these young men picking up guns in the first place? When you talk about the issue of social services, and I'm sure the managing director we're going to talk about it even more, the city is so far spending more than $60 million in some type of violence prevention services. And so Shondell, who's newly appointed by the mayor, will take the helm and looking at all of those programs and evaluating them. And if you're not getting the job done, then you shouldn't have the funding. We should be supporting the individuals who are out in the community day by day, servicing those most in need. And so, Shondell, we look forward to working with you to make sure that it's the boots on the ground that gets the jobs done. I mean, I'm all for statistics and evidence-based leadership. I learned that at Penn. But also, I want to make sure that it's beyond just documenting statistics and missing the mark on the human component. The human component. And I'm tired of going out day after day, at least 3 times a month. I got to speak at a funeral, console a mom, do a condolence resolution for some young man who was murdered in the streets as relates to some type of either violence on social media or some so-called disrespectful comment made to one of the other young men. We also have a victims committee. Now, oftentimes we talk about all aspects of crime and violence, but very rarely do we talk about those who are impacted. Most people know my story, losing a cousin in these streets of South Philadelphia back in 1998. That made me do my own 360 to focus on my life's mission, and that's reducing the issue of youth gun violence, regardless if I'm an elected official or not. We have intervention and outreach, and that's looking at those organizations who are out and about day to day, doing the work, making sure that they're supporting the parents, the children. And so that's what that particular commission is going to be focusing on. And we have program review, which is going to be also under Shondell, that's going to look at all the programs that the city is going to be offering and making sure that, again, we're supporting those organizations that are out there doing this work. So listen, I'm honored and privileged to have this opportunity to work with two of my co-chairs who are going to say a few words, and I'm going to just speak briefly about what this relationship means of me working with them, and then turn the mic over. First and foremost, on Michael DiBerardinis, who I've worked with in the capacity of me being a state representative. We worked in Harrisburg together, and we worked in the capacity of me being a council person. And I said, well, listen, we had a conversation yesterday about his role, working and supporting what we're trying to do moving forward. He said, Councilman, I want to be all over this because this is an issue that I'm very passionate about, and I look forward to working in partnership with the administration, right? But also making sure that as we push the needle forward, we have a comprehensive plan working in partnership with the Managing Director's Office and supporting our young people. Darrell, when you talk about the issue of guns, this gentleman, as Councilman President Clarke talked about, has been on the ground. I think I've been doing this work for about 20 years, and I know he's been around a little longer than that, not to put you out there, my good friend, but Darrell has a heart, and he has the compassion in helping people. He comes from a pure law enforcement background. I met him through my mentor, Harley Williams, and he was running Noble at the time up there on 49th and Pascal. And he supported me as a young man when I ran my organization, Peace Not Guns, way before I even thought about becoming an elected official. But he understands both sides of the coin. From a law enforcement perspective, we understand that, listen, if you pick up a gun, and I'm quite sure our sheriff knows this, and I want to acknowledge my good friend, Sheriff Joel Williams, listen, we want to be preventive. We don't want young men to pick up guns in the first place, right? But my #1 priority is to make sure my seniors and my children are safe throughout the 2nd Councilmanic District, first and foremost. So we'll help you through Focus Deterrent get a GED. We'll help you get a job, right, Caroline? Right? But nevertheless, if you want to be one of the guys that say, listen, I'm bout it, and I'm gang, this is what I'm all about, then you have to be dealt with accordingly. Because at the end of the day, none of these kids right here should have to be subjected to some guys shooting up a neighborhood. I mean, there was a woman riding to work the other day, got shot in the neck. I got a wife. I have 2 young sons. I want to make sure that they're safe. And so, Darrell, we look forward to working with you. And at this particular time, I'm going to bring up Michael DiBerardinis.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's I'm really happy to be here, and this is a very important gathering. On behalf of Mayor Kenny, I want to thank Councilman Johnson for his leadership, and also the Council President Darrell Clarke and Councilman Curtis Jones. We really appreciate their leadership, and we're ready to step up. We understand it in the Managing Director's office and with First Deputy Managing Director Brian Abernathy, Deputy Managing Director Judge Ben Lerner, and our new Executive Director of the Office of Violent Prevention, Shondell Revelle, that we have an obligation to respond to this crisis. One homicide is one homicide too many, and I agree with both Councilman Clarke and Councilman Johnson, that we have to step up what we're doing. Every day, our police are out on the street doing violence prevention work. Every day, folks are working with Town Watch. Every day, people working with CBH and Health and Human Services are encountering the victims of violence. So we have an obligation not only to work and coordinate our efforts in our office and collaborate across the government, police and DHS and health and all the intervention programs, but we also have an obligation and a responsibility to respond to the community and to reach out and learn and understand this question, not only about the nature of the violence, but the impact of the violence as well. So we think this is a really important effort. I know the mayor has instructed me to work really closely with the committee, the special committee, and to put our muscle and our heft and our resources behind it, and to expect more from ourselves, and to sort of not just talk about, but to actually bring down the homicide rate in the city. And I think with this formation and this commitment, I think we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not much of a public speaker, and so I'm going to refer to my notes to make sure that I cover the points that I want to address today. First of all, I want to thank Council President Darrell Clarke, who I've known many, many years. We go way back. We got personal friends. Kenyatta Johnson, me and Kenyatta go way back. Again, we also have personal friends. My council person, Curtis Jones. We go way back, a lot of issues, okay? And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention my other very close friend, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, who has always been supportive of me and the things that I've done in this city of Philadelphia. And even when you mention Janie, you got to mention Lucian. So how far back I go. My entire career has been in the city of Philadelphia for ATF. I moved here in 1977. I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived in West Philly. I live in Winfield. So not only is my career attached to gun trafficking, gun violence, but also I live here. I'm part of this community. And I raised my 3 children in this community, and my wife is over here too. And we both have businesses in Philadelphia, as well as some real estate stuff that the Councilman Clarke's district, as well as Curtis's district. So what I want to say is most of my time I've worked undercover. I've been involved in major firearms, illegal trafficking operations, gangs, both locally and nationally. Most of my activities, investigative activities, has been in East Division. You all know East Division, where that is. You know what that's about. I'm not going to say more. So, you know, I have been with and interviewed hundreds and thousands of firearm violators, both from an investigative point of view and also from an undercover point of view. So also many, many straw purchasers that I've interviewed, and so I know the psyche of the gun violator. I understand, you know, what that's all about. But I've also been involved with Men United, and I also have been involved with Ceasefire. So not only have I've been on both sides, plus running basketball leagues and being involved in community stuff like that. I believe that it's important, of course, for the law enforcement community, the law enforcement and the community work together. But also it's a critical component that the federal agencies, the surrounding law enforcement agencies in the county, that federal and local courts, as well as, and also the U.S. Attorney and DA's office, you know, come together, almost like a homeland security strategy, and come together and design strategies both on sharing gun trafficking intelligence, but also, most importantly, to develop educational programs to attack this problem from the front end, okay? Because what happens is, and I did this with Sylvester Johnson, who I love, he had a program in which he would go out to the communities and use police officers to educate kids about the whole series of what happens after you pull the trigger. And a lot of people only see that in the news, okay, but for those who have had gun victims or had families involved in tragedies, you know that from the minute you get that phone call to whether hopefully the person survived, all the way through the medical procedure and all the way through to hopefully rehabilitation, what everybody has to go through. And that's sometimes people don't realize that whole thing that happens. So I'm humbled to accept. I look forward to working with Mike, with Kenyatta, and the whole team. I consider myself a partner in this. I'm not looking to take over the thing. I'm a partner. So whatever I can do to be a hand. Matter of fact, my buddy Nate Jones here, he's from ATF. He's a senior management ATF, and he's somebody I know I'll be able to network with. But I also have good relationships in mostly all the agencies anyway. So I want to thank you very much, and I appreciate being here.
I want to take a councilmatic prerogative, if that's okay, because we're in the 2nd councilmatic district. I saw my inspector walking around here. Where is he? Inspector Darrell. Can y'all give him a round of applause, please? So I just want to do this, right? Because I used to work for this gentleman, and now he's in my district. But he's one of the foremost people that's on that council floor with me and the council president talking about this issue of gun violence. And so I'm proud, and I'm happy to introduce one of my big brothers and bringing him up to the microphone. He is the chairman of Public Safety, Councilman Curtis Jones.
So let me let you in on a secret. Council people don't watch the news the way regular people watch it. We watch it differently. Most people want to find out what the scores were in sports. We tend to look at, was there a death over the weekend? Was there a tragic incident with a gun? And we text each other. The first thing we do is we pray about the lost soul that we may have lost. Second thing we do is wonder whether or not the felon was apprehended. Third thing we do is say, where was it? And geographically, if you look at those charts, you see how often these things happen. This is the brainchild of our president because of the clarion voice of Councilman Johnson. Always, every week, speech of the majority has to wind up with something fun but something serious about gun violence. We have other partners that are here. Deputy Commissioner Patterson is a part of it. Judge Lerner, who has worked with us on criminal justice reform, is here. Former Assistant District Attorney, Deputy District Attorney Mosley and his team are here. So we have some bright minds that are going to try to figure this out. But here's the problem. To date, there were 177 homicides in the city of Philadelphia. That's an 18% increase. Most of those deaths are by firearm. And this is completely unacceptable. It is a health crisis. If 300 whales washed up on the shore of the Schuylkill, every marine biologist in the world would be around trying to figure it out. So we need to dedicate that kind of effort to figure out why our babies are killing each other. I see victims of crime. You haven't lived until you heard a mother scream about finding out that her son or daughter was murdered. Once you hear that scream, you will remember it your entire life. So whether you are a liberal, want to save the whales type of person, or whether you're a cold, calculated, money-counting person, we need to deal with this because over $229 billion has been paid out by taxpayers due to gun violence. $700 a person, $650 per gun. CHOP has dedicated over a lot of resources to deal with 500 youth who get shot every year. Temple is known internationally to having the best trauma unit in the world, and that's at the expense of citizens in Philadelphia. They train people who go to war at Temple on how to deal with traumatic gun injuries. This year, as chair of public safety, I ain't felt very safe. We've worked with the criminal justice system to work with Commissioners Ross and the police department, school district, because all of these things are related. They're not, and Councilman Johnson eloquently, I sit next to him, I take notes. That's the greatest compliment I can give you. I take notes about his in-depth, deep dive to this problem. So President Clarke is he's a fix-it, let's fix it kind of guy. Like, we don't want to do group. We want to figure out solutions. We're not revolutionaries, we are solutionaries. And we want to get to the bottom of this problem. We're going to work with every available resource to do it. We believe in counting. I love Town Watch. They have been in this for a very long time. And so we look forward to working with them. But please believe this, that we are not going to continue spending money for things that don't work. We are going to invest in things that do. So I'm pleased to be a part of this. Mayor Kenny and all of those here that are from the city are working with us. And it's scary when city council and the mayor's office actually work together on something, because that means something will get done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorothy Johnson Spite, and I'm founder and executive director of Mothers in Charge. Mothers in Charge is a group of mothers, grandmothers, aunts, and sisters whose children have been murdered. Their sons, daughters, loved ones have been murdered. For the last 14 years, I've worked in the city of Philadelphia to address the issue of violence. I want to first of all thank Councilman President Clarke, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, who I've been working with for quite a while, Councilman Jones, and everyone here. And I'm honored to be a part of this committee because I do believe that we will get some things done. This is a sheet that we get in our office on Delaware Avenue. We've gotten for the last, 12 or 13, I think Commissioner Johnson started this, where we get a homicide sheet with all the names of the victims in the city of Philadelphia who've lost their lives. The victim's name, the date of birth, the next of contact person. And we send a card and we reach out to these families every day to find a way that we can support them. Because if you haven't lost a son or daughter to violence, you have not a clue to the pain that's involved. It's a pain that I've never gotten over. I will never get over. My 24-year-old son, colleague DiBerardinis Johnson, was shot 7 times over a parking space. And while it's been several years, it doesn't matter because sometimes it feels like it was yesterday. So I do everything that I can to make a difference with these families, to support them, because I know that pain and that grief. In addition to that, every Thursday, we provide grief support for these families in our office at 520 North Delaware Avenue. I'm a licensed professional counsel, LPC. We provide grief support for them to help them know that they can live through this. Oftentimes, they don't think they could, and I remember when I thought I couldn't. But because of Mothers in Charge, and the vehicle has been for my recovery and helping me to live through the death of my son, colleague, I give back and help these families every single day. Every Thursday, if you know someone who's lost a loved one, there's no charge for that, but nor is it funded. Also, in addition to that, we have anger management on Thursdays, twice a day on Thursdays, because a lot of people think that everybody who's shooting people are about drugs and things like that. No, sometimes it's just people that are angry and out of control and don't know what to do with their anger and have the availability of a gun, and someone loses their life over a parking space or Facebook or any crazy thing that you can think of because they don't know how to manage their anger. So we provide this and has done this for quite a few years now and get referrals from the judges and the courts and adult parole and probations to try to give these people tools so that they don't pick up a gun and take someone's life, and it's working. The person who shot my son was a very angry, out of control person, so that's why I continue to do this even though we're not funded for it. Because I know a lot of times people who are angry and have access to a gun will take someone's life, because that's what happened to me. On December 6, 2001, Ernest Odom, who had a long criminal history and was very angry and out of control, shot my son 7 times over a parking space. He was a graduate of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. He was actually a TSS worker at Pickett Middle School, doing all the right things with his life. I will never, ever get over that, but I'm doing everything that I can to make a difference on this issue. I'm glad to be a part of this committee. I think while we're working together, we're going to get some things done. I am hopeful, very hopeful. I have my belief in my brother here, my young brother here, Kenyatta Johnson, that he's going to make a difference, and everybody that's standing here. I just got back, because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to attend this conference, but I just got back from Baltimore, where I was at the NAACP National Convention. I have fought long and hard for homicide to be recognized as a public health epidemic. This year, the National NAACP recognized homicide and calls for it is rightfully be seen as a public health epidemic. This is a national resolution that is now adopted by a national organization. And this was written as a result of Mothers in Charge crafting this resolution. And it was approved yesterday in Baltimore at their national convention with 8,000 people. I'm doing this work. I'm going to continue to do this work until I can't do it anymore, because I owe that to my son and every other mother and daughter and son and brother and father that has lost a loved one. I'm standing here, and I'm going to continue to stand, but I'm glad now I'm standing with some people who I know will get some things done. Thank you.
Say your name.
My name is Aleida Garcia. I'm the mother of Alejandro Rojas Garcia, who was murdered in 2015. I just want to say that yesterday I received a phone call from Councilman Kenyatta Johnson's office, and I am so honored and privileged to be part of this committee. I have known Dorothy since this happened and before that, and I know that we're going to put our entire heart and passion into this. There are so many things that we want to make sure that communities don't understand, because if you haven't gone through it, there's no reason for you to understand. We need access to the homicide unit. We need the better resources. We need someone to communicate with families and let them know what's going on. We need people to relook at unsolved cases. So we need to make sure that people are getting the proper counseling, that the standards are set appropriately and it's quality and it's not just, oh, whatever. And so all of these things and all of the journey that I've been through since 2015, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take my heart, put it together, and give it all I've got. And I am so honored to be part of this. Thank you so much.
My name is Shira Goodman from Ceasefire, PA. Councilman Johnson just asked me to let you know that yesterday there was a national report from the Centers for American Progress on the impact of stolen guns in our country. I'll just tell you, from Pennsylvania, from 2012 to 2015, 28,665 guns were reported stolen. Now, we don't have a mandatory lost and stolen reporting requirement, and when Philadelphia tried to do that, the NRA sued them. So this is way underreported. Those guns end up in the hands of the people who shot Dorothy's son and Alita's son. So I hope that this will be part of what this commission does. I'm honored to be standing with you. We need to come together and do this work. 177 is way too many, and we need to fight it. So thank you.
So, as we wrap up, and I'm going to bring the council president back up here, I want to acknowledge a couple of our committee chairs who are here. So on the illegal guns, we have Caroline McGlynn. Now, she heads up the gun task force under the district attorney's office, but I had a chance to meet her working under a program called Focus Deterrent here in South Philadelphia, and she knows the who's who of guys that carry guns down here in the South Division. So we thank you for having you on board. And as Councilman Curtis Jones mentioned, a good friend of mine, you know, I told him a long time ago run for DA, but he ain't listening to me. But Mr. Moses, can you give him a round of applause? He now runs PAN. It's okay, George. You know, God got another plan for you. But he's also going to be one of the chairs under the Social Services Committee. Also, we have, I want to make sure, we have Shondell, we have Joshua Harris, who's a part of the office. I just want to make sure the people are here who acknowledge, for the most part, because they're taking time out of their schedule. This is all volunteer. This is my first time meeting her. Say your first name. Tameen Farlow. How you doing, Tameen? Welcome aboard. Let's give her a round of applause as well. And Dr. Joel Fine, let's give him a round of applause. He's from, Dr. Joel Fine is from CHOP. And when we did the roundtable in City Council and the caucus room regarding gun violence as a health epidemic, you were there. I remember you participating. We also have Mr. Murphy, who's also going to be participating as a part of Town Watch. So listen, I'm going to turn the mic back over to my council president. And one thing that I do thank him for in establishing this committee. I was talking about just doing a task force, and I've done like 2 or 3 task forces, if you work with me, in South Philadelphia, all in the effort of trying to get things done, because we can't sit idly by while these murders are taking place and these shootings are taking place. And he called me and said, listen, we're going to make this official part of the actual record to make sure we get something done. So, Council President, I appreciate you for stepping up to the plate and saying, listen, I hear you. But also in his district, he called me, listen, he was pissed off a couple weeks ago, and somebody shot up some type of, it was a barbecue. I'm like, 9 people got shot. Well, it was his district. And he said, no, it's not happening like that. So I just want to thank you, man, for your leadership, stepping up to the plate. Mike, I look forward to working with you. Darrell, look forward to working with you as well. Kurt, that's always what we're going to do. We join to the hip. And so I thank everyone for coming out. Give the microphone back to Kurt.
Councilman, thank you so much. Your passion, along with our colleagues, and you and Kurt, you all sit over there on my right side, and speeches on behalf of the majority. I hear that passion, man, and it makes me want to come off of the podium and go down there and give a speech, but I'm not allowed under the role. So this is one of the reasons that we do have the opportunity to do this. So guys, I just want to say Thank you all so much. The reality is, as you heard, that we've tried virtually everything. You know, we sued, called Governor Ed Rendell. He was the governor at the time. Gov, we suing you, right? Change the law. Lost and stolen, right? Called the colleagues up in Harrisburg. We're suing you. Weren't successful. We did every imaginable thing that we can, right? And some people would give up and just say, oh, well, it's not going to happen. We're not giving up. We're not going to give up. But these young people here are depending on us to make sure that they live in a safe environment. And it's not acceptable to have the level of violence in our street as it relates to guns. So I want to thank you, Councilman, you in particular, because you're always in my ear about this gun violence, and those speeches are hit home. So I just want to thank everybody who's participated in this. And for those of you all that are not on that list, it doesn't mean that you can't participate, all right? Whatever you can do, block captains, committee people, community leaders, this has to happen. They talk about it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take a village to keep a child safe. So thank everybody for being here, Councilman. Thank you so much. God bless you. Yeah, I'm going to do a little council matter prerogative, and I'm going to turn it back over to Councilman Johnson. All right?
So, and I want to wrap up on a positive note, right? And it's going to take all of us to roll up our sleeves. So that's why I'm happy that the administration has joined us. We got the community to get involved because it's that important. But I want to show you a fine example of when you invest in someone, how they can do a 360 and give back to the community. Now, there was a guy right there named Michael Harris who ran PAN when I first got out of school. And most people, some know my story, some may not know my story, but I grew up in this same neighborhood. I made a 360. I wasn't always on the right path. Went to school, came home. After I went to Penn and Mansfield University, came home, start focusing on being a positive force in my community. I know what it looked like in the back, but we're not going to talk about that. But that's a joke. Y'all catch that later on. But this gentleman, Michael, you caught that, President? This gentleman right here, Michael Harris, invested in me when I ran a program called the Peacemakers Program out of the Dixon House at 20th and McKean. This is about 20 years ago. So then I meet another young man who I met. He said, I'm not into politicians because politicians talks out of both sides of your mouth, so I'm not really interested, but I heard good things about you. From that point forward, I took him under my wing. His name is Tariq Glasgow, right? A guy from the street, right? And here's a guy who changed his life, right? Now he works on the Focus Deterrent Program in the DA's office, and he has his own program called Young Chances. These children are his children. That he don't get paid, he don't receive a check to run a camp, and also an all year round program. So no one cannot tell me that we can't eliminate gun violence in the city of Philadelphia by investing in our youth. I think it takes the will and all of us stepping up to the plate, rolling up our sleeves. It's not going to take just the police, it's not just going to take the mayor, it's not just going to take the captain, it's not just going to take the community. It's going to take all of us to get involved and invest in our young people. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.